Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Berkshire branch AGM and presentation. We've got a bit of a packed session for the first 30 minutes, going through our annual general meeting. Hello to everybody. Let me see if I can get my webcam on as well and say hi to everybody. Hello. So I'm Anthony. I'm the chair of the Berkshire branch. Oh, hang on. Hopefully you can actually see the presentation in the background. Okay, so today we are going to be discussing our AGM for the Berkshire branch. And then moving on to our talk for this evening. Just a couple of elements there. You can see kind of vital workers, kind of an initiative from the BCS. Let's see if we've got all of the attendees. We're just waiting for a few more to jump on. Okay. Good to see a lot of the committee here. So hi, everybody. Right, so let's start going through the agenda then. I'll just bring this up. There we go. You should be able to see my screen now. Let's get this over to one side. So hi, welcome everybody. We're going to go through some introductions here. Any apologies for absence, minutes of the previous AGM, any kind of matters arising. And then we've got a report from myself, the chair, on the year's activities, a report from Chris Todd-Davies, who is our current treasurer. And then we'll be going through kind of election of chair, treasurer, and anybody that wants to be a committee member. At this stage, you know, we are also going to use the chat section on GoToMeeting. So when we get to that stage, if you did want to be part of this very talented committee, then please do kind of raise your hand or write in the chat. But it's great to have everyone here. There might be some other business to briefly discuss, but then we'll move on to our talk, which is using AI for good in the workplace. And it's great that we've got Richard Foster Fletcher here, and we're going to start that around about 1:30. With kind of questions and answers after that session, and then finish hopefully around about 8:30. Hopefully that's fine for all of you. So first, welcome and introductions. Well, I've kind of introduced myself a little bit already. I am the chair, Anthony Parker, and have been for a number of years. We also have a number of other committee members on the call at the moment, and for time, what I will do is I'll just run through their names and how they've helped out on the committee before we kind of go into any apologies for absence. So I can see Andrew Fieldsend, who is kind of an ex-chair of our committee, a very long-standing member, and is a current committee member. Blessing and Pom is a committee member. We've got Chris Todd-Davies, who is our current treasurer. We have, let's see, Lee Williams on. Hi, Lee. We're going to be talking about you in a minute. He is head of volunteering on the committee. We have Prasad, who is our current secretary on the committee and has done a great job in pulling all the meeting minutes together. And there are a number of other attendees that will be joining as we kind of go through. We have had some input as to some of the people that would like to continue to stay on the committee. So that is the current setup. If any of our committee members also want to kind of go on webcam and say hi, feel free and wave. I think when we get to Chris, I'm sure he'll show himself for the Treasurer's report. So, moving on to apologies for absence. I didn't receive any really, and just a quick question for Prasad, being our current secretary. Prasad, did you get any apologies?
I didn't especially receive anything until 4 o'clock. After that, I don't know if there were any emails. Let me just double check. There was one email from David. I don't think, okay. That's it. Other than that, I haven't received any emails. Nope.
Yeah, I think I did talk to one of our committee members, Yota, who is very prepared to stay on, but we'll get to that as we get to the election of the chair, treasurer, and committee members. Okay, let's move on to minutes of the previous AGM. I believe that I do have the previous AGM here, the AGM minutes. Here we go. So here we have the previous AGM minutes. That includes my report from last year and a little breakdown of our expenses and the following committee members that were elected at that time. And you can see some of the committee members there. From all the committee that are currently on the call, any points to raise with the current meeting minutes? If I hear silence, I will take that as accepted from last year.
Hi, Anthony. Just to let you know that they can't unmute themselves. So if the committee members could raise their hand, if there's an issue, and then I can unmute them.
Okay. So we have Chris Todd Davies that's raised his hand. Chris, any comment from you?
Chris, you just need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm unmuting myself. No, I don't think so. The only thing is I can't display any webcams for some reason, just you.
Okay, not
so
to worry.
Sure how I'll share
maybe
my
we can
screen.
handle that when it gets to your point. I totally forgot Mike Buckland is also on the call as well, our communications lead, who is a massive support for me over the years. So yeah, some of the key kind of team members here. Okay, I will take that as accepted. Prasad, if you want to record that the meeting AGM minutes from last year were accepted, that's great. We will get back on to the agenda. Oh, I actually see you. I do see you, Chris and Mike.
Yeah,
so hello.
The video green button just came up, so I clicked it.
There you go. Yeah, you go. See, you've got to be enabled. Okay. So no matters arising from the current minutes. Let's move on to a report from the chair, which is myself. What I'll do is I'll also try and bring it up on the screen for those of you that do actually want to read it as well, or if you would prefer to read it rather than listen to me. But here is the chair's report for 2019 and 2020. I'll be reading through this, maybe making a few comments as I go, but this is going to be a year that we don't forget in many different ways. We started our academic year last September with a strategic vision of reaching out to communities and growing our exposure in the Berkshire area. We held a few meetings around GDPR, 1 year on, our Christmas social and CV clinic before everyone heard around about COVID. It has obviously changed the branch and how we operate, but with the processes we put in place, we were able to adapt as a committee team. Promotion of our events is primarily happening online through our social media channels, so Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube these days. We also took it upon ourselves to update our new committee document. So Mike Buckland, our communications lead, has been instrumental in leading the effort to update it for any new members as an easy way to understand what our branch is all about and how anyone can help with our mission of making IT good for society. We will be sharing this document with our membership going forward. Another highlight of our year was engaging with our community. Not only did we expand our network to include Reading Google developers, ISACA, and especially Claire Stratford. Hello, Claire. I know you're on the call. Good to have you on. At Thames Valley AI Hub, we're really excited about that connection. We look forward to working closely with them over the next few years, bringing you the latest in AI thinking, which is one of the reasons why we've got an AI talk after this AGM. We look forward to working, don't mention that. However, it was our volunteering effort led by Lee, which saw remarkable traction. Lee created a website for Twyford volunteer drivers who came to us for direction, and the website can be viewed here. So when I send out the chair's report, you should be able to click on that, twyfordvolunteerdrivers.org.uk. Have a look at it. So this year, we're also supportive of communities by setting aside part of our budget to support Yota Diamitradi and her work at Reading University, supporting employability skills for students with special needs and disabilities by helping development of their cyber preventative skills. And other highlights include Blessings video on our YouTube channel talking about the branch. It was so great to have her do that. So using our branch to help purchase schools equipment and student prices whilst delivering talks around the areas of cryptocurrencies, smart cities, connected communities, JavaScript and diversity. We've done all that this year. So you could say it's been a very diverse year considering the changes we've been through. But as with all other branches and a lot of other BCS members, this year has been viewed as somewhat of a reset of expectations of the new normal and new modes of operation. I actually became chair in 2013, 7 years ago. And in that time, I've seen vast changes around sustainability, environment, cybersecurity, fake news, and the new digital landscape we all play in. I personally pushed for branch processes and onboarding documents to the committee members to help the branch run smoothly during my time. I feel that this soft reset of how we conduct activities in the branch is a good time for a change of leadership in the branch, and I will actually be stepping down as chair of the Berkshire branch at this AGM to pursue the management of my business and my increasing workload. It has been an absolute pleasure to work with such a dedicated, enthusiastic and knowledgeable committee. I look forward to being a regular committee member to guide the branch during the next year, and I have full confidence that I'll be able to take the branch forward with the processes we now have in place. It will be my focus over the next year to ensure that those team members who have helped me over the years are recognised within the BCS. But the focus for the branch in the next year needs to be on community involvement, digital enablement, and improving our exposure and relevancy in this new normal. I wish my successor all the best and putting their best foot forward. If anyone would like to be part of this talented committee, please highlight at the relevant point when we get to this section, or do email our secretary, secretary.berkshire@bcs.org.uk. So many thanks for an enjoyable 7 years. It has been great, and I have absolutely loved discussing everything and having a laugh with the current committee. I will stick around, I will be on the committee, and I will hope that the Berkshire branch, including the Surrey branch now, goes from strength to strength. So thank you very much. Okay, and with that, we will move on to Chris and have a report from the Treasurer. Chris, take it away.
Yeah. Can you enable the screen sharing? I can't seem to.
Yeah, that would be useful.
Ah, right. Has that worked?
Yes, at the moment you can see.
Yeah, I can take it back to your desktop. Yeah.
Ah, there we are. Can people see the screen now?
Just see
Yeah,
your desktop, your background.
Well, I've got two screens. Let's just go to webinar.
Either share the second screen or, drag it into your main screen.
Yeah, I'll try the. No. Is that
There we go. We'll get there. We'll get there, guys.
Go to webinar. Give me Zoom. Right. Okay, well, like Anthony was saying, this is an unusual year. And so for that reason, we didn't spend nearly as much as we usually do on items like events where we support schools or exhibitions, mostly STEM-based meetings, and we didn't spend as much on our meetings, which normally include some food when we meet. Anyway, just to look at last year. Last year we had a budget of 3,650, and we spent just under 95% of that at the end of last year. This year we had a budget £300 more, 3,950. We actually spent 3,916, about 99% of budget, which is detailed in the table below. However, we had two chargeable events, which we didn't have last year, and this was Break the People and Turing, and they brought in a net income of fees and so forth of over £200. So our net expenditure was 3,700, or just under 94% of budget. So that's shown on that table. I don't know if anyone wants to ask any questions about the various items. I've highlighted a couple with yellow. The sponsorship one, Anthony alluded to in his report, £1,800 nearly, was to support the employability project of disabled or disadvantaged children in Reading, and that was led through Yota, who's a lecturer with PGCE at the University of Reading. Some of that went to software. They're developing 3D sort of tutorials aimed to help young people with disabilities gain interview and success to get onto apprenticeship schemes. So normally we wouldn't spend so much, but because we had a lot of money left, we just spent it all. So it involved a laptop, software. We also have a number of student prizes. You can see that these are the things that are over budget. They're mainly microbits, which people might be familiar with. And then we've bought some other microbits and various bits of hardware which are within equipment costs. And that's our income. So the big difference this year, of course, we didn't travel very much and we didn't spend very much. Normally we would sponsor 2 Teen Tech events and Buck Skill Show. We did the Buck Skill Show. We haven't done any Teen Tech events because of the COVID crisis. So we've moved that money effectively into the disabled school students and also money to promote STEM in Reading schools, and that's where microbits come in. The only other thing I'd say is that we put a budget submission in this year for slightly less, a couple of £100, 3,725. We've not heard what our budget has been approved, and we assume that's because of COVID. Right, that's it. If anyone's got any questions, I can take them.
If anyone's got any questions, please raise your hand. We'll give it a few seconds to see if anybody has any questions. Looks as if we're good to go, Chris. So thanks for that.
Right.
Okay.
I'll unshare.
Okay, so moving on to the rest of our agenda. It's really first we've got election of chair, treasurer, and committee. Let's show my screen here so that you can actually see. There you go. So election of chair, treasurer, and committee members. So at this stage, all of the committee members kind of step down, including myself as chair. And we now kind of ask if there's anybody that would like to put themselves forward as chair. Okay, so I'm opening up the floor. If anybody would like to raise their hand and put themselves up for nomination as chair, please do so now. Doesn't look as if we have any at the moment. Andy, are you on at the moment? Andrew Fieldsend?
Can you hear me now?
Would you be interested in taking interim chair whilst we find a new chair for the Berkshire branch?
Yes, I can do.
Okay. I think that would be a good way forward, and I will, of course, assist you with that. It's unfortunate that we don't have too many people stepping up as chair. Of course, you know, maybe it's a bit of a thankless task, but you certainly do get some perks, and you certainly do understand the industry inside out and work with some of these great guys. So Prasad, let's just write down that Andrew is in as interim chair whilst we look for a proper chair. Would anyone like to stand as treasurer?
Yep. Whoops. Yep. I will again.
Yeah, Chris.
Where's my hand signal gone?
Maybe the fact that you've actually got unmuted, that's fine. If anybody else would like the treasurer role, if they would like to raise their hand as well, to give everybody equal opportunity. If not, I would definitely kind of first you as treasurer, Chris. You've been amazing thus far. Could I get somebody who could second that with a raise of hand? Oh, we have a few. We have Prasad, Michael, Lee. Great. Yeah, or Andrew. You can take one of those. Thank you, Ugo, as well. Michael Danzu's on the line, on the call. Michael is our newsletter editor and does a phenomenal job with the newsletter every single month. So when you get that in your inbox, you've got him to thank. So hi, good to see you, Michael. Okay, so we've got the interim chair, we've got the treasurer. Now, does anybody want to be a committee member? I am going to put myself forward as a committee member so that I can actually help the rest of the team get used to maybe a new chair, a new way of working. So would anyone like to kind of, in fact, with committee members, remind me, Andy, I don't think we need to have a first and seconder, do we?
No, that's right. We generally just block vote them.
Okay, so who would like to be considered for the committee in the year going forward? Please do raise your hands and we will take names or write in the chat. So we definitely have Blessing, which is great to have you on board again for another year, Blessing. We have Lee. Prasad, please take these down. We have Michael. Michael, thanks.
Anthony, I'm raising my hand physically because I don't have a raise hand button.
Yeah, Michael. Mike, yes. We also have Ugo. Ugo Ekpo, good to have you on board, Ugo. We'll get in touch with you. Please do put your email on the chat. and we'll start sending information out to you about that. Does anybody else want to be considered to help out on the committee? I mean, you know, it's a great experience, guys, and does kind of gives you a lot back in understanding where the IT industry is. Anybody else that would like to raise their hand? Okay. Well, thank you very much for those that did. We will start the process of putting together the interim chair, treasurer. I think Mike is going to be staying on as communications lead, I believe, and some of the other team members. And we'll be writing to you the rest of the membership as to who those new people are and the positions that they have on the committee. So thank you for that. Moving on to any other business, an open, I don't have any kind of points to raise. I think we've gone through the majority of it. We're going to soon get on to our talk, but would anyone like to raise their hand and ask any questions or raise any other business for this AGM? No. I will. Blessing and Michael, you've got your hands up. I don't know if you did want to say anything. I see Prasad actually has his hand up. Prasad, would you like to raise anything?
That I joined the PPP Group or the specialty group in the HQ branch.
Okay, I didn't quite catch all of that. I don't think, Prasad. Do you, what group?
PPP, the Policy Procedure and Practice Group, led by Garfield.
Okay.
And we just had
What
our
about the group?
meeting, last week, and that particular group is pretty much tasked with all the current BCS policies and how BCS basically operates and all that. And also, I think it will have the overall governance responsibility for everything being done by BCS.
That would be interesting. Yeah. Okay, note that down. That is certainly something that we're going to follow up as a branch in the coming year.
Hi, Anthony. Sorry to interrupt. It's John Jeffrey here. Just to let you know, Ian Scott put a question and just putting his hand up to join the committee as well. So I'll forward those details separately.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot. Good. Ian, thank you very much. Good to have you on board. Look forward to kind of working with you over the next year. Great to have some new blood on the committee and some new people. That's great. Okay, if there's no other comments, I'll give it just a couple of seconds. Okay, so thank you very much. We're pretty much on time, so that was good. Half an hour, and we've done our AGM. So congratulations to everybody. Thank you very much. I think we are now going to move on to our session, which is using AI for good in the workplace. So in a minute, I just want to welcome Richard Foster Fletcher to talk about AI, and hopefully this will go on for about 45 minutes and be armed with your questions around about 8:15, and then we'll kind of finish up with a couple of questions around 8:30, so that we have the rest of our evening. So take it away, Richard, if you want to share your screen and start.
Thank you very, very much. I'll just do a little bit of tech admin here. Let's just see.
I thought I gave you a lot of runway there just to get prepared.
You did, but I couldn't share the screen until I was on. So I don't see the screen myself.
I see your LinkedIn feed.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Are you doxing yourself already, Richard?
right. So if I present from
Oh, no, don't show
here,
that screen. No, don't show that screen. That's
how's this? How's this now?
yeah, brilliant. AI for good in the workplace.
Terrific. We're on target then. Wonderful. Great. I can't. Right. It'd be absolutely fine. I'm just getting used to the medium here. So thank you, first of all, for inviting me to speak to you. What a wonderful privilege. And I can see that I'm in good company already. I've enjoyed hearing the minutes in the meeting so far. We're going to be quite interactive tonight. So I invite you to grab your mobile phone and to visit a site called menti.com. And we will participate and build this presentation and time together. So menti.com. I don't have viewers of my slides, but that's absolutely not a problem for me because I'm also accessing them on the app. And then you will see the code, hopefully. And for those who need the code to be read out, it is 948124.6, 948124.6. So I'll just give everybody a quick moment to do that. So what you're going to have, then you're going to have a replica of my slides now in front of you on your device, whether that's a tablet or a different PC or indeed your mobile phone.
Apologies, Richard. Mike here. Could I have that number again, please?
Absolutely. Is it not showing, just to check though, is it showing on my slides at the top though?
It is. I can see it. 9481.
Okay, sorry. Yep, got it.
So that'll pop up Mentormeter on your phone. Just any browser should work, but I believe Chrome's particularly good for this. So let me explain. So let's head over here. And so to quote Malcolm Gluckland, the medium is the message. That's why I wanted to use Mentormeter tonight so that we can all contribute to this. Every single moment of my presentation tonight is, in that sense, interactive. And so what we have along the bottom of my screen, and hopefully on your mobile devices as well, is a whole series of icons. And I'll tell you what they mean. So if you like what I have to say, then give me a heart, and I'll know that I'm getting some love for these kind of comments. If you're not sure about what I'm saying, then hit the question mark and I will slow down. I'll reiterate if I see some of those, and that'll give me a chance to explain a bit more detail if I'm covering a certain aspect. If you agree, that's a great time to give me the thumbs up. If you disagree, give me that thumbs down. I absolutely do not mind that at all, and I'll be delighted to see people disagreeing. And then there's the cat, and I will quote Mentormeter for you now. No one knows why the cat is there, and only you will know why you choose to press the cat. But if you do, I've left it there for you if you want to press it. And I can see some people pressing the cat. There was also the opportunity to ask a question. You can use that, but I'll probably come to those at the end. And then there is the little speech bubble. And that, in theory, is going to pop up some comments, and you should be able to see those live. Given we're in good company tonight, I think we'll be okay to show those live. I think I've got the profanity filter on. Let's not test it too hard, but I think it's switched on. So this is going to give me a chance to hear what you think and experience what you think as we work through some ideas tonight. So I will just put one proviso in. None of us have a monopoly on the truth and the future, but definitely not me. I'm just sharing a few ideas with you tonight, things that I've learned along this journey of mine and across the last 108 different podcasts. I don't claim it to be the truth, only some ideas that I hopefully will spark some interesting discussion tonight. So I see that we're getting a hand of the icons, so I'll just check. Yes, I'm getting some thumbs up, some hearts. So that is far nicer than a silent room. So thank you for showing me that we're here and that we're ready. So here we go. Let's find out a bit. So I went over to willrobotstakemyjob.com. Now, this is just a bit of fun, okay? This is the opinion of one website about what jobs might be replaced by AI. They choose their own data. They don't talk about how to get that data. So this is just fun. I was going to remove the banner, but I thought I'd leave it in and we could just reflect to ourselves whether or not eBay's got good AI or not. But it's clearly saying that I'm going to want a lot of toilet paper and a lot of weights. I'll let you decide how good the AI is, as they clearly think we're going to get another lockdown. So you pop your job in, and I did this for a few, and I would like you to help me out. So this has been tested already, so you can very much ignore the order that you see on the screen, and go ahead and start putting the will robots take my jobs in order. So first is where you think it's most likely to take a job, and then down to 9th, the least likely. And on my screen, it'll take a few moments for you to put that information in. I'll do it myself as well to match you in terms of speed and pace, and then we will see what we think. Okay, I can see that we're filling this in now. Just give that another minute or so. Everybody just finish. I think there's about 30 of us on this call. Okay, it's starting to take some shape though. Okay, so currently receptionist and retail salesperson almost drawn. Oh no, a jump there for a retail backwards, and then truck driver, accountants, auditors, security guards. Okay, but it's a fairly smooth curve actually. There's no major drop-offs, which is interesting. I see that nurses, teachers, musicians, lawyers seem to be down the bottom. I'd say this is looking pretty good. Let's give that just a few more seconds. Do shout or comment if you need a bit more time. Otherwise, we will take this as read in just a moment. So let's, it may jump and change, but let's assume that we've got somewhat of a conclusion here. 21 people, it shows me, have contributed to this, so thank you very much. Receptionist, salesperson in retail store, truck driver, accountant, security guard, lawyer, musician, secondary school teacher, registered nurse. Okay, let's have a little look at what the website said, and let's see how we did compared to that. Receptionist, accountant, retail, security guard, truck driver, musician, lawyer, registered nurse, school teacher. I'd say that's pretty impressive. Some slight variations in the order. The thing that is very different, of course, is the percentages. Now, there's almost a certainty from this website about some of these jobs. And at the moment, I mean, they're looking ahead over a few years into the future, obviously not decades and decades ahead. So that's how they ranked them. So it looks like we've got a pretty educated audience here in terms of what the future looks like. So we'll explore in a moment why we think those particular jobs are at risk. But I would like a little bit more from you now. So I've got a question for you here. AI helps me to be more successful in my work. Simple yes, no, or don't know. We had 17 people so far. We had 21 last time. Gives me a chance for a sip of tea. 19, okay. Wow, so overwhelmingly anyway, still overwhelmingly 70% of you saying yes, it does. There's our 21 again, which seems to be a magic number. Okay, next question. I perceive that I use more or less AI than my competitors? Here we go. That's 9 people, 13, 16. Wow, some fast fingers out there. Okay, so overwhelmingly uncertain at this point. Okay, but certainly from the balance there that's left, there's more leaning towards people that do use more AI, so that's interesting to see. Okay, third one. I have plans to use more AI at work. Okay, that's 15, 17, 19. Okay, so overwhelmingly yes. A couple more seconds. Okay. 74% more plans to use AI. So another little ask of you here. I need you to write for me now. What is the most valuable AI tool or application that you use in your business? Now, could be anything, could be from Google Maps through to using some specialist machine learning that you've developed, but just put a few words in there. So Python, of course, great example there. Power BI. Alexa, so we don't need a reception. Oh, I've just lit Alexa up. Let me turn her off. Okay. It's interesting to see this audience. Raspberry Pi, this is not a standard audience, is it? This is quite an interesting range. C++, OCR, yeah, optical character recognition, yeah, great example. Google, library reference management, Google Analytics. Someone's using Watson, fantastic. We had Hina Purwit from the IoT team at Watson just on my last event, actually, which is really interesting. They were showing us how they try and automate checking of bias when using their tools. D-Wave surveys, Google Nest. Wow. Oh, I suppose, yes, if you're working from home, I'd probably have to count Hive in that as well. Online shopping, there's Google Maps. Okay. Otter, yeah, so transcription tools. Whoever uses Alexa instead of receptionist, please send me a LinkedIn message so I can find out what you do. And then someone's written brain, yes, fair enough. Another one for Google Maps, another one for Otter. Wonderful. Thank you for all of those. There's 22 people contributed. Thank you so much for your attention and interactivity tonight. More Google Maps. Okay, so a real range there from off-the-shelf applications, consumer tools through to some specialist coding tools for AI. So there's this idea, isn't there, going around, and some of you will have seen this, that the route to this successful AI implementation in businesses, that you go along this journey, that you start by automating processes, then you start to augment, and then you amplify. So I credit the author for this slide, but I took out all of their text actually on purpose, and I just put in these 3 messages instead. So I won't need to tell this audience necessarily what all these things mean. So I'll go as deep as we need to. So some of the areas that we've been talking about already, why are jobs at risk? Well, mainly that's a lot of automation, isn't it? It's at the moment more automation, which is like robotics, process automation, even just powerful workflows. Analytics are the reason that we credit technology to taking jobs, as it always has done. But potentially there's a question around the scale and the speed this time that's fundamentally different. So there's this idea that when you've done that, you start to implement more AI and you start to augment more sophisticated and complex procedures in the organization. You might start augmenting decision-making, where companies become data-driven is one of the expressions, using more big data. And then through that, we get to this idea of amplifying. You become more, you can do more, be more, have more as an organization because you amplify. But the question I want to ask in this presentation is, what is going to be amplified in the enterprise? Is it going to be creativity? Is it going to be existing capabilities? is it going to be new capabilities? And that's what I want to explore with you today over the next few minutes. So let's keep this in mind. Automation to augmentation to amplification. What does this mean? So let's dig into some of this. The idea in summary of the whole thing is that we're freed up from all this mundane task, from all this administration, all this repetitive tasks, and we're suddenly free to become brilliantly creative and innovative in ways that we never were. That's supposed to be the dream of AI. It could be. That's I'm many questions about that, but that's certainly what is being suggested by some people. So let's dig in a little bit around this. I interviewed Jeff Keeling yesterday for the Boundless podcast, and he also spoke at one of my events. And he said this amongst an hour of conversation. He said AI satisfies people's preferences in two ways. It adjusts the world to fit the preferences, or it can adjust the preferences to fit the world. It took me a moment to really grasp what Jeff was saying. Adjusting the world to fit the preferences, or adjusting the preferences to fit the world. And what he was pointing at was the echo chambers that we find ourselves in. A little silly headline here for you made up from Facebook, but how much are our perspectives being attacked, addressed? There's an old saying, isn't there, that they used to tell you what happened, and you would decide whether it's true or not. And now they tell you what's true, and you have to decide if it really happened. So this is the danger that we see. So bear with me as we work through this to get back into the business, because this is what we're talking about, isn't it? This idea that you give up your data and in return you get a more personalized, targeted experience. Now, there's nothing wrong in the principle with this, I would say. Obviously, everything I say is my opinions. For years, advertisers have worked day and night to try and influence our decision-making using the data they have available to them. When they put a billboard up showing somebody drinking Coca-Cola, it's supposed to influence you. It's supposed to have an effect and get you to buy more Coca-Cola. The problem is that now that we're being targeted by invisible AI and data is being collected that we don't necessarily know what is being collected, we don't know what that arrangement is. We don't know what we're agreeing to. And so, yeah, okay, kind of websites now say we're going to provide more targeted ads if you give us this data, but it goes so much deeper than that. And that was the Cambridge Analytica problem. So it just, nothing was declared. We were buying Coca-Cola and we didn't even know there'd been a billboard. We didn't even know there'd been an advertisement. So that's well documented, and I think people have heard that many times around social media, and there's been programs recently on Netflix. So grab the comments for me. Tell me what worries you about the picture that we see in front of us now. What on there might be a concern to you? Mark himself. Lack of regulation. Okay, keep going. Data mining, yes. Yes. Privacy, yes. Some of you will have heard about this example already, but for those who haven't, I'll share it with you. So this is the Oculus Quest 2, about to come out. Phenomenal piece of kit, by the way. Yep. So Zuckerberg is worrying in many ways. Agreed. But specifically, there's something that Zuckerberg's doing now which worries me even more. So does anybody know the price of the Oculus Quest 1 when it came out in May 2019? Just, what, 16 or so months ago? Anybody know that? It wasn't $399. Someone's seen that ahead in the presentation. It wasn't $799, but you're getting closer. It was $599. It was twice the price. Now, kit gets cheaper, I know, of course, but it's only been 16 months. So it's half the price, this one. And some people suggest that this is why. Because you have to log in with Facebook now to get the full functionality, and in some cases, even any of the functionality of using the Oculus 2. I'm seeing some thumbs down now, unfortunately, but I'll take that as a thumbs down to the model here, the data model. It is, I was going to say it's appalling, but it is what it is. It's clear. This is data harvesting. There's no doubt at all. The price is put there to make it as accessible as possible because they know that there's huge value in this whole new load of data that they're going to be able to get from VR. Now, you might say to me, well, what about Alexa, Richard, and Google Home? I mean, Alexa's so cheap that actually Vodafone just gave me one. They just emailed me and said, have a free Alexa because you're a customer. Now, I have no specific problem with Alexa. I've interviewed people from the team, and actually, I think right now they're heavily focusing on making it very usable. They're not focusing so much on harvesting data. They probably will in the future, but right now they're trying to work on the user experience more than anything else. But we know it's super cheap because that's the path forward for them, isn't it, to get ubiquity across their devices. So Facebook, Apple, Microsoft with their HoloLens 2, all these others, they want to get ubiquity. VR developers may not adopt this because of this constraint. You're absolutely right. I mean, we need to have more options than just is available to us. So I don't want to labor this point. Get a second Facebook go. Yeah, I know, but they're making it harder and harder and harder. So what is AI doing? Is it analyzing? Is it suggesting? Or is it influencing? And so this is where I want to land square back on questions about AI in business. I've given you the example of what AI is doing when we put it into other channels. When we put AI into social media, we know it goes beyond analyzing, it goes beyond suggesting, potentially it even goes beyond influencing and actually goes to exploitation, but we'll save that for a different presentation on a different day. We know there's heavy, heavy influence. So what's this going to look like when more and more data hits the enterprise? So why is e-commerce so successful? Let's use this example to frame our enterprise discussion. E-commerce is so successful because you can shop in your underpants on the sofa at midnight, right? Because it's got more stock, because it's 24/7, because it's so simple and quick to use, because the stuff gets delivered to you. We know all this, but really the reason that e-commerce is successful is they collected data in a way that physical stores never could or never tried to. Part of that is the cookies. They've done a phenomenal job on this. Now, this was a speech I gave a year ago at Tech Mahindra, and I said, let's have a look at what two main retailers operating in the UK are doing right now. Amazon was working out how to get parcels into the boot of your Audi. That was one of their initiatives at the time, a tie-up with Audi and some specialist locks. Debenhams, literally at that time, Debenhams was working on push notifications. They announced it as their big IT development. Yeah, Tesco's been collecting card data, agreed. And that was part of their great success, of course. And everybody else tried to follow when they realized how successful that was. And Tesco's done a great job in moving to e-commerce as well. But Debenhams hasn't, and House of Fraser hasn't, and to some extent Marks and Spencer haven't. Now, let's not pick on individuals here specifically. There's still lots of great retailers on the high street. Clearly, it's been made a lot harder by COVID, but perhaps that's just an example of how broken industry retail on the high street was anyway. So a year later, we've seen the ramifications. Okay, COVID's hit Debenhams hard, but Debenhams primarily has not succeeded because they haven't got data. So here we are chatting with fictional John Marlowe here on Zoom, and the same thing is happening now. That happened in physical retail to e-commerce is now happening from physical meetings to e-meetings, Zoom meetings, Teams meetings, Google meetings. We've suddenly got a massive opportunity to collect data. I don't need to tell this audience about collecting data. You'll know this stuff as well as me in terms of think about everything that you can collect now from a Zoom call with the right APIs and the right permissions. Let's have a look at a couple of examples. So here's one, Insight. Here's their demo. Now, this tech is still pretty basic. Some of you will know that it's not that brilliant yet. It's quite simple in the way that it analyzes emotions and sentiment from nonverbal indicators, but it'll only get better and better. I will be shocked if companies don't start putting this technology in. When companies like Oracle, that I used to work for, arrange purchasing decisions with companies like LinkedIn for Sales Navigator, they have long drawn out negotiations. They don't just buy the product. When Oracle becomes the biggest user of Sales Navigator, you know that they start asking for APIs and data access and all these things that go above and beyond the standard customer. The enterprises are going to be doing the same thing now. I mean, Microsoft obviously owns the technology in some cases, but others to get into Zoom and say, we want to be able to use this technology to analyze the nonverbal cues from our prospects and our customers and our partners that we speak to so that we can understand more about our customers and our data. Applications like Gong.io and Chorus.ai have been around for a while, but now look at the investment they're getting. It's surging. So Gong.ai will analyze every single sales call. And is this why Oracle's been interested in TikTok? Possibly. Possibly. I don't know how much politics there is in that. Larry and Trump seem to be excellent friends, and he really doesn't like Microsoft and Satya. So, I mean, people on this call will have some views as well, but possibly. Oracle's never done B2C before, so that is a real step change, but it'll be interesting. Interesting what happens with that. So Gong.io here is lifting all of this information out that's been hoarded in the past by salespeople, some very successful, some not very successful, and it's making it fully available. In theory, it's fantastic. You know, you can take a much newer salesperson up to probably closer to their quota, maybe 60, 70%, a lot faster by helping them to understand how to respond best to customers' objections or issues and so on. So we know that this technology is accelerating. So there's big questions here. What's it going to look like? Who are going to be the winners and the losers now? Who's going to want to collect this data? Who's going to say no to this data? Who's going to collect it and declare it? Who's going to collect it in secret? How are they going to use it? But if this is similar to eCommerce, and I suspect it might be, then I think this could be incredibly powerful. We shall see. So that's the first question I want to raise is, are we thinking about this new data? Are we willing to collect it? Are we willing to use it? And the second part of this presentation is, what do we want to use it for? So this is where we come back full circle and ask about the echo chamber that's so far been seen to be extremely detrimental on social media. What's that echo chamber going to look like in the enterprise? What is it going to reinforce, all this data and this AI? So another little bit of fun for you. I went onto Google and I put in the phrase diversity in an organization. The first two images were cartoons. So this is the first image for diversity in an organization. And by all means, check yourself and you can find out just how skewed my Google results are. I can see some men, I can see some women, and I can see at least a couple of people who have got a slightly different skin color to me, maybe three. So, okay, maybe this is diversity. It could be, but I have some questions about that. So this group of people is this fictitious company that we're imagining that they all belong to. They're all in the same company. They're all incentivized the same way. They've all subscribed to the same corporate culture. They have to, otherwise they wouldn't be able to get on and be a great company. They've all passed the same hiring processes, have the same performance reviews, and use the same systems and applications. I look at them again, I think, no, you know, they all look pretty similar to me. I'm not sure I see diversity, not to mention the fact they all appear to be pretty good looking and wearing expensive suits. So some real questions there about diversity. So what do we want to incentivize? What do we want to use? I went to the same school, yeah, probably. So this is the concern, isn't it? That we collect all this data, whether we get it from Slack or whether we're doing some crazy stuff on Zoom, whether we're harvesting email data, however we're anonymizing it. There's all sorts of good, bad, nefarious practices that can go on. But then what? The danger is that you'll do all of this, not very diverse indeed, and it will just reinforce everything you already believe, which is what we saw, this echo chamber idea that 11 facts that already support your opinions. It's a real risk, I think, that companies will get this wrong. So what will they amplify? The processes, the bureaucracy, the blind spots, the stereotypes, the biases, the existing capabilities? This is the question, isn't it? How fast is this going to go before they realize that the data, exactly, the biases, before they realize that it's just reinforcing what they already thought they knew? So we've all read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. This isn't exactly what Jim's saying in there, but if you take Jim's book and marry it with Christian Clayton's book, The Innovator's Dilemma, we're somewhere in the middle of this, all the above. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. If you put those two babies, those books together and had a baby out of it, this is what I'm wondering, is that you could use all of this to become a really, really good company. You really could. You could do fantastic processes, right? You could use that AI to look at who's likely to leave the company, who's at risk, who needs a pay rise, who's the most productive. You could do all this kind of stuff, right? Who should we fast track into management? Who's our kind of person? Who should we go and hire? And you could do a really, really good job with that. But I think it's a mistake. I think, like Jim says, good to great, but I don't think it is. I don't think good can lead to great if you do that. I don't think good is the journey to great. I think quite the opposite. I think it's the innovator's dilemma. I think good will get in the way of great. And that means you've got to think differently, take some different risks. So what else could be amplified? What about innovation? How could that be amplified? Diverse perspectives, really diverse perspectives. Go and check out zindi.co.za, I think it is. You Google Zindi, you'll find it, Z-I-N-D-I. So that is a South African-based challenge system for AI projects. They've got 1,200 data scientists and pseudo data scientists from around the world. They pay out about $12,000 if you win a competition. So it's not aimed at the West Coast of the US. It's not aimed at Europe. It's aimed at different countries around the world. They recently had a project, and they had two guys from Russia who competed, and they used massive hardware, some really powerful models, and they won the project. They had a lady in Kenya whose electricity didn't even stay on for the whole day, and she came a close second just by using finesse on her AI project. And that is a diverse perspective. That is a really different way of coming at an AI model and solving a problem with AI. So can we amplify objectivity and creativity and new capabilities? These are just questions that I'm asking. They're big questions about the enterprise. But for me, it really is about that perspective. I just think that this can really open us up to see more and to allow more, and open up our walls to who knows what, open innovation, sharing data, sharing our IP like Toyota and Patagonia and Tesla do. Or we can just use it to kind of look inwards and to make processes even smarter and sharper and quicker. But I think the companies that try and be really good at this will never be great at this. So that's me. I'll just very quickly share my details there. And looks like I've left us a bit more time for some Q&A, so hopefully that's useful. So what am I up to? A podcast 3 times a week. I have 2 unique podcasts on Monday and Wednesday, boundlesspodcast.co.uk or Boundless if you want to go and look on Spotify or iTunes. Incidentally, most Boundless podcasts are Christian, but this one's a bit more relating to tech and science. But I thought that was interesting to see that after I named it. And we have 2 events a month as well, part of MKAI, Milton Keynes Artificial Intelligence. Thank you so much. That's lovely to see. Thank you. So mkai.org, we've got one announced for this month, some incredible speakers. We've got the head of fairness and ethics for Google products, who's coming on. We've got a speaker from IBM. In fact, we've got the chief data scientist from IBM as well. on the 22nd of this month. So do come along. You're very, very welcome. So we have an inclusive event on the Thursday and we have a technical event on the Wednesday. The idea of the Thursday event is that we want people to have better conversations, right? I don't know how useful it is to talk about robots that want to conquer humanity. There's a place for that, and mostly it's in films. But I really hope that some of the work that I'm doing, and I get loads and loads of help, it takes a village to do these things, is just maybe giving us slightly more useful conversations. The kind of stuff about data and ethics. Maybe not quite so sexy, but really useful. And you're very, very welcome to link into me, connect with me, follow me, whatever you like, and I'll be more than happy to accept. And most of all, thank you for the interactivity and the comments and the emojis. It's been phenomenal.
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was fascinating. It's strange that we have all this data everywhere. It's an abundance of data, and yet it's the companies that control that, that control the power. I guess we're looking for more of a democratization of data, or an accessibility or transparency of data that we can all access. When are we going to see these tools that the average user can use in AI?
He started with a big question. My apologies, your name's not popped up. Could you remind me?
Anthony. It's Anthony.
Oh, thank you so much, Anthony. I actually sense, and I'm not trying to pretend to be any expert here, by the way, just somebody who listens and shares a few observations. It seems to be a very different story, doesn't it, around the smaller business, not necessarily the startup, but the smaller business, the mid-size and the enterprise. The enterprise, I think it would be easier to answer that question about their own strategies and so on around data. But the smaller companies, I mean, they could run some competitions maybe, but I can't see they're going to be doing any real data science in those companies anytime soon. Is there enough data? Is it enough usable data? Has it been labeled, annotated, structured? Have they got the time to do that? But I think now's the time, isn't it, to really think about the platforms that you use in any size of business. I think about e-commerce again. If you're going to start an e-commerce business, when you look at WooCommerce or Shopify or whatever else, that's where the bulk of the AI and the machine learning needs to happen. I mean, the likes of Anthony, I can't speak for you, maybe you're an e-commerce genius. I've run an e-commerce business for 5 years. I can confirm to you I'm not a genius. It's remarkably unspectacular, but that's what I need them to do, isn't it? I need them to tell me font size and how many clicks and where things should be, because they've got, 1 million merchants and they've each got 1,000 customers. I can't get anywhere near that, but they have to democratize that to the vendors. So hopefully we'll see more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually work in open source, blockchain and Bitcoin and the rest. So open source is, this vast array of data that everyone has access to. And that, in my sense, is the democratization of data. And hopefully AI will get open sourced and hosted, and we will all use it, and they will interact with each other, and it's going to be a very, very interesting future for us. I wonder if we've got any questions. I don't know if you've got any your side on the app. If anybody has a question, please do raise your hand, and we can open up your.
Let me check that on my side. It's a good system, this, but it's still a little clunky to use. So.
Yeah, GoToMeeting is not the best, but
no, I meant Mentormeter. I wasn't insulting your platforms. I was insulting mine. So, just while
you've got a great mic there, though. You've got a great setup. Obviously, you're all used to your podcasts, and the sound quality is phenomenal. So, well done with your data.
Oh, thank you. I bought the flag, but obviously I'm no good with colors. You can barely see. He did say we can't see your logo. I said, be fine. It's not fine. That was a mistake. But open data, Anthony, that fascinating to think about that, because I've just had David Syme on the podcast, who's an AR and VR expert, and kind of harrowing conversation, actually. So I think partly is the question of, do they connect these devices up? So you might know the story about Amazon Ring. Did you hear that one? Where it turned out they'd sync them all up.
Oh, yes.
And they were selling that to police and any bidder. here's the complete map of the neighborhood in real time, live in high definition. So they got pulled back a bit on that, but I could see them going, Anthony, like, would you like to have a half price ring? No, look, just have it for free. Why? Because they're missing that little bit of surveillance that you could provide by putting the camera up. So they connect those up. So would they connect up the Apple AR glasses so that when you're in Waitrose and you say, and you, whatever you think, Elon Musk will have you thinking, where are the cookies? It can answer that in two ways. It can either say, I know where the cookies are because someone's programmed it to say they're in R5, or it scans the whole shop in real time with everybody's glasses, finds them, and then tells me where they are. And that's what Teslas do. Teslas are a connected fleet.
Surely we're talking about consent here, though. This is your own data, and hopefully, in the future with self-sovereign identity, you're going to be able to say whether you want these third parties to use that information or not. So I don't think it's going to be up to these large IT companies to make that. I think the information is going to remain private, possibly an expansion of GDPR.
I hope that's the evolution. I really do. It took the whole of Europe to push back on Facebook last time and win, and that was 10 years ago. They're so powerful. So we'll see if they're connected. That'll be one thing. As I say, the Tesla fleet is connected, and that's fantastic. It could save your life when the Tesla in front of you tells you about the tire on the road and your Tesla slows down. Wow. But what data do we want to see, right? So can we have Wikipedia-style open source data in our AR glasses? I pray we can, because otherwise,
I'm imagining my wife hacking into my Google glasses and kind of like, oh, I'm just down the shops, darling, and no, you're not.
Hi there, Anthony. We've got a couple of questions here from the audience.
Fantastic,
Richard,
go for it.
You happy if I put them to you?
Yeah, I'll give them a go, sure.
So we're straight into regulatory stuff.
I should have left less time, shouldn't I?
Indeed. So the first question is, what about regulatory regimes? US and China seem to be taking national approaches. EU have GDPR somewhat differently. What are the implications as you see them?
I mean, it's a brilliant question, and it's such an important question. I see more geopolitics in this answer than I do see any real legislation at the moment. If you look at like climate change, I mean, it's China says this, the US will say that. It really is a something fight that's probably not an appropriate word to put on this session. We have a really interesting position over here in Europe. If you go onto Wikipedia and put in the top 10 largest companies in Europe by revenue, it's a little bit scary when you look at the industries. They are all old world industries. It just reads like oil and gas, automotive, and then you've got a bit of finance, and there's nothing there about technology. Now, we do have a lot of tech. I mean, ARM could be $1 trillion company based out of Cambridge. I'm sure everybody knows ARM, chip manufacturer for Apple and others. You've got amazing companies in terms of technology, people like Siemens. We make a lot of IoT sensors in Europe, so we're not devoid of big tech, but we don't have a Baidu, a Tencent, a Google, a Microsoft, and Apple. And I mean, look at those revenues again. Market cap, it is insane how big those three American companies are now. It's a gulf. The third largest is twice the size of the fourth largest. So we don't have that lobbying going on here in Europe that they will have from those companies about how these kind of regulations should be. So we've got a massive opportunity, both in the UK to some degree, definitely in Europe, to lead in the kind of stuff that Anthony was describing: open data, sovereignty, protection, security. But we've got a dogfight on our hands because there's going to be huge pressure from Facebook saying we're going to keep sharing European data straight to the US. We're saying you can't. They're saying stop us. So China's winning. There's no question. China's won. The US is the US. The innovation's phenomenal. It's what they built their nation on. We have a real opportunity to be different and to be smart and to be leaders in a completely different way. And I really hope we take it, both with the data and the climate.
Excellent.
Yeah, and if I can chime in here a little bit, because we look at some of the regulatory pressures all around the world. And you definitely see a massive difference between the US and China. Of course, you've got a communistic state with an authoritarian government that can bulldozer over any type of regulation. And in the US, it's admittedly maybe a crony type of capitalism, but it is capitalism nonetheless, which is similar to the EU and us here in the UK. And we're bound by the regulations of some of that private data, especially GDPR within the EU region. But the US and some of the US companies are definitely taking a lot of the thinking behind GDPR into the privacy of some of their future products. So they see that as a standard, but that's more of a standard in the Western world, certainly not a standard in the communistic kind of Eastern world. I think we have another question.
Yeah, so another one of the questions is very specific now, but it's just trying to find out whether the Tesla data is actually available to the customer, to the consumer, or whether it's just all held there by the Tesla overlords.
Yeah, wasn't that the 3D rendering, or kind of the CAD design of one of their cars or something they shared?
So I looked into this recently, and I didn't quite get to the bottom of it, but it seemed that Musk said they wouldn't take legal action if people used their patents. So, and I found out that Toyota opened up their patents for electric vehicles and hybrids some time ago as well, which I actually only just discovered that recently. So I'll put a note on this to say that I'm still kind of researching as much as I can around this. Mobility, obviously, fascinating area. The Tesla data, in my opinion, is their most valuable asset. They've shared the IP. I don't know. I thought originally to build the industry, and then I wondered if it was so he could sell more batteries. Then I wondered if because he wanted to mine the moon for lithium. I mean, you just don't know what Musk is trying to do. But he seems to be, on balance, a force for good, and and to make some wild, crazy ideas that aren't going to be realized. So that data is absolutely not available to their competitors to use. And it could be that the death of the Fords and the VWs, because Waymo, part of Google, has got a fraction of the data that Tesla's got. Yeah, simulated miles, NVIDIA will help you do a good job with that. They're kind of useful, but the reason that we don't have autonomous vehicles on the road, amongst other reasons, is that long tail, right? The long tail of occurrences that we still have quite primitive AI. You have to program AI, you have to give it the use cases, the scenarios, which means it can't drive, because there's going to be something that happens where it goes, I've not seen that before. The light's shining in a certain way and I've got a pedestrian in dark clothes. I don't know what to do. And so until a car can have reasoning capabilities, which could be argued even what that is, we're probably not going to see that. But the Tesla fleet is now up to 1 million cars, is collecting data every single moment, every single day. When a human drives it, it collects the data, puts it in, and it learns how to drive it, how to react, how to protect itself. It's incredible. It's phenomenal. It's probably why the market cap's so high. I don't see how anybody else can catch them up. And then they're not even trying to catch up. There's still no cameras on Fords, right? What are they going to do?
Yeah, I think Tesla are a technology company, not just a car company. But anyway, autonomous driving, it'll probably be better than my driving, I'll tell you that much. Another question, when has any big data been opened apart from some Google?
I don't really understand the question, I'm very sorry.
The person who asked that, do you want to kind of add any kind of further information to that question? Or are there any other questions coming in?
So that was the last question we had. I guess the interpretation is, well, my interpretation is that almost you touched on in Tesla. So is anybody kind of really opening up their data so that it can actually kind of support market growth across competitors to kind of create opportunity?
Oh, okay. Oh, well, great timing, yeah, because absolutely there is. Well, it's all the geo data, so all the Earth observation data, all the low orbiting satellites, that's been very much made available, and there's a lot of citizen science being done on that. And they're working really hard to not only make that data available for climate modeling and environmental decision making, but also to showcase how good open data can be. Open data, as Anthony and I spoke about it briefly already, I mean, I've got a real passion for this because I think it unlocks so much more potential. It opens up so much more open innovation. And I think it's a mindset shift as well. So yeah, there's masses of big data available for anybody who wants to look at some climate data. That's one easy example. And in terms of open data, I think that's a chasm still, a Geoffrey Moore style chasm, especially in the enterprise. I think at the moment they've been caught out. Netflix ran an open competition, a challenge, and then got their hand slapped for sharing too much data. So I think companies do want to share more data, but we already talked about GDPR. It can be really tricky to know when you're staying on the right side of legislation and law. And not only that, your own ethics and morality as well, which is important to people. So I sense that there's a little bit of an opportunity, like with parenting. I'm not a parent, but I can imagine that clear boundaries are a good parenting tool to use. And I think more innovation will be able to flourish. You really see it in the financial sector, but in other areas as well, where you put some clear boundaries in. And then I think AI projects can flourish and do better when people are less worried about like sharing big data, like you mentioned there. I hope that helps a little bit.
That was great.
Yeah, and
pretty inspiring people.
And to add to, sorry, go for it.
Can I jump in? Hi, Richard, Mike. We used to work at Oracle, but although
Absolutely.
our paths never actually crossed while we were there, because it's a big company and not everybody knows everybody else. And I'm retired now. Mention climate change. Our next event on the 7th of October will look at data and climate change for businesses. All businesses use data centers, even if it's just through the supply chain. So I do commend that talk to you on the 7th of October, berkshire.bcs.org on the 7th of October. Richard, you've managed to avoid talking about the track and trace app. It occurs to me that the UK government test and trace scheme, which they launched on May the 28th, they withdrew it after a month, and they'd gathered quite a bit of personal data in the meantime, protected personal data such as health and status, names, contacts, details. They switched to an app that doesn't gather private data, working with people like Apple and Google. It seems to me that it is possible for people power to have some influence on regulatory bodies. That seems to be a good thing to me, that they've ditched one test and trace app and switched to one that doesn't gather personal data. Have you got any thoughts on that?
A little, yeah. I'm not a health expert. Health and AI is not my domain, so I won't speak for long about this. My reflection on this actually came from Paul Weller. The public gets what the public wants, and we can't forget that. We get what we want, but we have to make it happen. We will have secure use of our data if we want it, really. I'm convinced of it. 1984, George Orwell, the power is with the proletarians. We absolutely, it's in our hands. But to get there is this big giant leap, isn't it? The NHS is this real golden goose, isn't it? Because it is probably one of the best centralized pools of health data in the world. In the Americans, so spread out, other countries probably nowhere near the level of digitalization. So despite it being this humongous mess, it's still probably the prize. Hence why we've seen Microsoft, Google, IBM, I think, and was it Palantir? Yes, Palantir, which was was it Peter Thiel? I think he's the leader of that organization. It's a bit, no comment about Peter Thiel. And they need these companies. It's an important relationship. They're not UK companies, we know that, but we've already discussed there aren't the UK equivalents. I was in no way comfortable with what was being explained about what was being shared or why. I felt the people sharing it were pretty clueless about data. We talked about AR and VR quite a bit. I think in a few years, we're going to see people in court going, what were you doing with AR? What were you doing with data? like we saw with Facebook. What were you doing? How were you doing? You know, so the gap is terrifying with the knowledge of data in leadership in government compared to the people in Microsoft who are saying, can we have that data? That is a David and Goliath, and there's no slingshot.
Right, I think we've got time for just another 2 questions. We've got a couple of questions here. So the penultimate one for you then, which domain will benefit the most from AI in the near future? Is it recruitment, healthcare, or something else?
Healthcare, I think. Healthcare is the leading light for AI. That is the place to celebrate and showcase everything that it can do. Healthcare, advertising, and military are the 3 best use cases, so I pray it's healthcare.
No, very much so, especially.
Retail's underutilized AI massively, and that's a huge failing.
Yeah, I guess with genomic sequencing and cell gene therapy and specific drugs for specific physiologies, yeah, I can see AI putting a lot of that data together and coming up with some good outcomes. And I think we'll finish on the final question here. Which profession will never be replaced by AI?
Well, somebody called me up and he said, I'm working on an automated podcasting program. And so he's still working on a final product, but what it'll do, it will listen live into the conversation that I or anybody else has with a guest, and it will choose the next best question to ask. And I don't think he'll get there. I think the art of communication, I don't think, because I'm watching the clock. So you know, when AI wins at, like, what's that Atari game? You know, the one where it has the block and it has to knock all the blocks down at the top with the ball. You know that one? And you have to keep the ball going.
Or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Plays it like a genius, but doesn't know it's playing, doesn't enjoy playing, it can't celebrate the win. Our motivations are different, right? No matter how smart this AI gets, we are here for the enjoyment. You look at football, it doesn't matter how much you pay them, doesn't matter how much science you put in, it doesn't matter how much VAR you put in there. People aren't going to turn up to a boring game, and football will die unless it's fun. It has to be fun, otherwise there's nobody watching it. And they will realize that at some point. Hopefully my beloved Spurs won't have to lose like they did to us 97th minute handball. So that's the human spirit, right? That's what will always live on. But
I think,
go on.
No, I think that's a great kind of insight. I mean, you've got computers that binary ones and zeros. They're very good at logic. You know, if this happens, then do that. But I think where AI is going to excel is probably in more the empathetic nature, or understanding the human psychology of people and how they interact. And in doing so, I think it will provide fun. I think maybe this is a perfect thing to end on, is that AI can bring fun to your life if it starts to look into some of those other areas that maybe, you know, natural computing can't.
Yeah, we shall see. But if you're making people smile, if you're lighting up their light, I think you've got a good career ahead of you for a long time yet.
Indeed. Make people happy and you'll have a long career, whether it's in AI, computing, anything. Brilliant. Well, Richard, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I think we got a lot out of that. So I really, really appreciate your time. So Richard Foster Fletcher, you're CEO of neuralpath.io and founder of mkai.org. Is there anywhere else that we can send people on this call to learn more about you?
Just the podcast. Just, you know, please listen in and let me know what you think of it. Recommend guests to me, whatever you want. I'm trying to make the podcast
Remind us of the name.
Best it can be. Boundlesspodcast.co.uk. I genuinely want this to be absolutely the best it can be. It's non-commercial. It's a passion project. I'm going to work on it for the rest of my life. So I promise you, I'm trying to make it really, really good.
Brilliant. I might have to search that on my Apple Podcasts app. I certainly do like my podcasts. So thank you very much for joining us for the AGM and also that talk on AI. As Mike said, we've got a meeting coming up in October. That will be on berkshire.bcs and catch you on the next one. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everybody.